Welcome everyone. Tools for balanced scorecard objectives, the metrics, the measures, the indicators, and the key performance indicators is what we will be talking in this video. So essentially, we are trying to find out what is balanced scorecard and is there anything that relates to the organizational strategies. Remember, balanced scorecard and strategies goes hand in hand. Probably, definitely yes. Why? The only reason the linkages that comes around is metrics. Balanced scorecard talks about metrics, KPIs talks about indicators, and strategy means about goals that has to be achieved either via to be measured either via metrics or indicators. So this is a process of ensuring alignment among the organizational performance measures, strategic plans, improvement of projects and budgets. The item is in blue were covered previously, and the items in gray will be covered. Now, what we are talking out here is to be understanding the fact that the organizational key goals, what are they? How do we process it? What we link towards it. So yes, developing and deploying enterprise level strategy is what we should be talking about it. If there are any processes that can be measured, if not, please derive one. The key performance indicators for enterprises, and once the metrics are aligned at all levels, identify the process improvement projects, and that is what we should be looking around it. Once this has been done, we have to do the budgeting purpose, and that is the requirement for ensuring that organization goals are being achieved. There comes the second part, the aspects of what we are trying to go around is establishing key performance indicators associated with the organization keys, goals, and measure performances in these areas perhaps. So what are performance measures? Performance measures are nothing but indicators that evaluate the productivity and the quality of the products that the organization churns out, or in short, the effectiveness and efficiencies. And that is what we are looking into it. How the efficacy of the organization in plain simple work. So how efficient the organization is working around it and how effectively it is churning out things. So they indicate the organization performance areas that affect the very existence of the organization. Performance measures are critical to the improvement process, as any improvement effort should result in improvement in the bottom line for the organization. These measures can be collected to show existing performances or improved performances thereby. So yes, we are trying of performance measures. Now examples are plentiful of performance measures. We can talk about the net income growth as in the traditional things. Net income, return on investment, actual versus estimated budget, stock price increases, market shares, sales volume, percentage of satisfied customers, annual inventory turnover, total rework of scrap dollars, labor cost per sales dollar, direct and indirect cost, and overtime cost per sales dollar, as the case might be, as what we are looking forward to. Performance measures can be categorized to help understand the areas where scores are lower than the desired learning and growth. The four parameters of balanced scorecard, as I've been telling it to you time and again. Now, one was learning and growth, the other was process, the internal organizations, the internal process that we are talking about it, and the external organization or the customer that we are talking around here. And that is what needs to be done. Overall, it is all about to be regulated by financial indicators. So yes, we say percentage of employees trained in terms of learning and growth, percentage of employees establish or visualize themselves in alignment with the organizational goals. We need to understand the morale of the employees, the motivation level out there. Now that is all about learning and growth. In terms of processes, the number of process target that we have achieved, is it 80%, is it 90%, or is it 100%? So if that is the case, what are the wastages, what are the slippages, can we reduce this further so that the process can be refined? The customer, what amount of market share that the company occupies and what it aspires to be. The company which service the customers, how many of them are loyal customers or a repeat customer? Because this will denote satisfaction among the customers. Finances is all about net income growth. Stock as a percentage of revenue per se. How do we go across with it? Focusing on the critical issues, less is more. As I've been telling it to you, just four categories that we have: finance, internal process, customers, and learning and growth. And we, for each of them, we can have only one to three metrics, more than enough, sufficient, because once we have one to three metrics, we can have 5 to 10 strategic metrics for overall of the firms. If you have less, you can keep a tab onto it. If you have more, probably your focus gets misplaced or lost. Stakeholder alignment, our metric is incorporated into inputs or metrics from the customer, supplier, regulators, stakeholders, you name it, and we have it. Quantitative over qualitative. We use specific numbers as in indicators in terms of ratio, indices, and to gauge performances. Early warning system, we set short and intermediate targets, identify specific milestone for implementation. The common goal, we explicitly define and communicate key terms, metrics across functional and divisional boundaries. What are we looking out here? We are talking about these critical issues in terms of balances. Balances are checks and balances that can be noticed, notified, indicated, understood, read, comprehended at the end of every week, month, quarterly, annually, and multi-year services altogether. Strategic alignment is what we are talking about. Enactment in our strategies, our management systems are aligned with our metrics per se, and that is what we should be looking forward to. Now, these are the critical issues where we state less is more, stakeholder alignment, quantitative over qualitative, early warning system, common languages, balance, and strategic alignment. So, how do we establish a good KPIs, key performance indicator? Just ensure that you only measure what is important. Remember, important vital things needs to be managed, needs to be monitored, because that will impact your productivity, profitability of the company. So does our metrics focuses on key strategies? Do they reinforce the kind of behavior that we would like to see? That behavior satisfy the key stakeholders? Do they reflect what customer experiences are about it? Do they reflect what our competitions are doing? When was the last time we actually took action based on this metric? Are our metrics simple and clear? Can they be easily understood, explained, and communicated? So essentially, if you have to answer these questions, you will come to know which is important and what is not. So align your metrics according to the stakeholder metrics, thereby. Now, how do we go around it? If you look into it, this is a vicious circle that comes around it. Why? Because higher minimum order mandated from the supplier, whereas lower minimum order mandated from the supplier is what we are looking into it. Why higher minimum order? That means a lot of capital has been wasted or blocked. If I term it wastages might be a wrong thing, might be blocked is the reason. Because why? The higher minimum orders, whereas in the lower minimum orders, the capital is not blocked at all. Work has been produced as and when ordered, or there is a demand altogether. So remember, the more the order, the more the lead time, the more the slower fulfillment of the suppliers, but the more the demand would be. The slower fulfillment means so slower satisfaction. Slower satisfaction will absolutely low demand from the dealers, and this will make everything go slow. Whereas out in this thing in the lower minimum orders, everything is moving very fast. Why? Because things are moving around from a shorter time, lead time to quicker fulfillment, to continuous production, quicker fulfillment of dealer, higher record rates. Even if there is a change in that demand, you will be able to monitor the demand and probably change your inventory style or production style, or probably even upgrade your product accordingly to the taste of the market, demand of the market. So company decides to improve efficiency by increasing the minimum order sizes. However, a firm's key customers has already have trouble meeting this. You need to understand this problem, see this problem, and decide to reduce the minimum order, increasing the inventory turnover then and there. Translate qualitative targets into quantitative metrics. Qualitative targets means good, excellent, above average, wow factors, ecstatic. Now, these are all adjectives, right? Qualitative things. Can we do it on the scale of 5? Can be 3.5, 3.75, 4.1, 4.9, What are we looking into it, or probably even five also. So translate qualitative targets into quantitative metrics. Remember, quantitative metrics helps us to limit subjective interpretation, speculation, gives managers numbers to shoot for. Even soft copies like innovation can be translated into numbers with a little lateral thinking. Non-biotech firms uses new patent application per scientist to measure this area. Deploy early warning system. Good implementation of strategic plans hinges on responsiveness to a changing environment. Enlightening managers focus not only on annual or longer term, but on an intermediate short term milestone as well. Establish a common language. Performance metrics should be simple and clearly defined. Yet, even sophisticated firms from an inconsistent defining terms. For example, middle managers may view growth goals in terms of revenues, sales, revenue, money coming in, whereas the executive may term down the profit goal, revenue minus the taxes, minus the expenses. They are not the same, and the action needs to be achieved that are different. So, yes, let us try to establish a common language. That is what we should be striving around it. Let's say, in terms of sales, the interpretation is revenue. The consequences are longer lead time if you have made a sales, but the money is yet to come in. It comes after a lag of 40 days, 50 days, 60 days. Probably impact means it's a lower net margin because there is a cost of capital also. Poorer cash flow comes in. What about manufacturing? Let us talk about manufacturing. It's efficiency of getting better piece prices, right? As in the good quality things. So more outsourcing, consequences might be more outsourcing because you are keeping the quality control on a higher end through higher quotas. That means higher product return or lower net margin as the case might be. But these are the things that needs to be taken into account every now and then. Now, what about the qualities or engineering as a firm? So what do we go around here and how do we measure it? Let us look into it, right? If you say of engineering, we are talking about quality, achieving better quality by reducing defect or Six Sigma basis that we are talking about it. That means intensive product and process redesign, probably keeping a excellent control over what is happening and how it is following it out, going by the book. What does it impact? It means a shipping delay. It's a higher cost and a lower volume as there is no, or should I say, zero defects altogether. So that is what engineering is all about. It in terms of finances, let's say we talk about cash flow, secure better cash flow through higher cash management, tighter cash management. Now, how does it goes at it? This is stringing at with the late payment, right? It is what we are looking around it, including key suppliers. So there is, if the impact is on production delay and a lower volume profitability. Now, these are things that needs to be taken into consideration every now and then. And how do we go around it? If you look, everybody has a different understanding and different take, and that's the reason why we keep on saying, let us come for a good solutions in terms of a common language. What are we speaking whenever we speak something as such? Deploy a balanced portfolio of metrics. That means what? We should not be putting all our eggs in one basket. So can we divide it? Can we segregate it? Can we have different kind of scenario? Short term versus long term. Many firms focus heavily on a short term basis. As of today's game, nobody looks for tomorrow's pain, perhaps, which can jeopardize the enterprises in the long run through a lack of long range planning. Similarly, for internal versus external, the portfolio is often overpopulated with internal performance metrics that accounts to happen outside the firm. What is outside the firm? Let's say we are producing into something, we are we are manufacturer. Every process is being followed as in the SOPs, as per the SOP. But what happens if the raw material is in fact of inferior quality? So that happens outside the firm. Then managers lose the connection. So you need to deploy a balance of portfolio in terms of short term and in terms of long term, internal and external things. Then we talk about the alignment of metrics with strategy. Good metrics facilitate implementation, execution. Poor one is all about misaligned one, impeding implementation. So can we align metrics with strategy? And this is of highest importance. Fortune 500 companies have developed high performing firms. They have recalibrated their performance management and track and reward strategic behaviors accordingly. So, understanding BSC or Balanced Scorecard, it is the management system that enables the organization to clarify vision and strategy, translate them into action. It provides feedback around both internal business processes and external outcomes in order to continuously improve strategic performances and results. Essentially originated by Robert Samuel Kaplan of Harvard Business School and David Peter Norton as a performance measurement framework. Now, it is essentially a measurement framework for the company per se. As we keep on saying around here, this is what we are looking as in a company. This is what is happening with this thing. How the organization is faring. The balanced scorecard has evolved from its early use into a simple performance measurement framework to a full strategic planning and management system. We will display about the first generation usage, the second generation template, the third generation template, and fourth generation template, so on and so forth, in a moment's time from now. The new balanced scorecard transforms organizational strategic plan from an attractive but passive document into a marching orders, giving giving indications or at least giving direction of what the organization needs to do on a daily basis. Essentially, this was what was planned in the Harvard Business Review as such. And how does it goes around it? We are talking about finance, we are talking about internal business process, we are talking about the customers and learning and growth. Only on four metrics of objective, measure, target, and initiative. There are basic nothing about four metrics that we need to go around it. What were the objectives as far as finance is concerned, customer is concerned, internal business? Remember, every objectives for every of the verticals would be different, right? Similarly, for the measures, what needs to be done, the targets, have we achieved it or not? And the initiative way back in 1996, this was published in Harvard Business Review. Now if you look into it, I am talking about the first generation balanced scorecard. Herein, if you look, this is a sample, an example for you to understand. These are the people who have been associated. They are the owners for outperforming capital market, cash flow, and this is only a relation in terms of a financial areas, right? So you have the status, we have the measures, value, targets, performance, comments for objectives. What was the value? What was the target? It was negative 30 pence. It becomes 150 pence. What needs to be done? This was the value. This was the target. Divide the expected KPIs and who is responsible. Similarly, for cash and asset management, sales and profit growth. I hope I'm trying to or able to give you an understanding of what needs to be done. And believe me or not, this was essentially just like a day-to-day affairs of today. We are actually sitting in one position and we were strive to be on a different position. And what needs to be done? You will be letting it know. Somebody has to be make an owner as the person who will be doing all the credit for the things that goes right and all the credit for things that goes wrong. So there is the objective owners who are the functional owners that have been given around here. So yes, your target has been given and your value, essentially today's status, you are going to go around it. This was all about first generation. It was a very simple affair. Now let us move to the second generation balance scorecard. Remember, the four perspective remains the same thing: the financial, the customers, the internal process, and learning and growth. And things changes and everything has a direct or indirect relationship to improve shareholders values. Essentially, what are we looking into it? For leading in growth, developing and retain professional managers, developing professional customer oriented skills for sales, for understanding the impact of various marketing levers, develop service agreement, develop better work practices. What are we looking at as an internal process? Drive trade in terms of channel by channel, deliver customer service standard, implement major accounts, deliver excellent consumers propositions, deliver excellent internal customers services, effective management. Look, this effective management actually bypasses and goes to the financial aspects altogether. In fact, including effective control of businesses, as in no surprise that needs to be taken care of, directly helps you out. Now, what is happening with customer preferences? Let's say it's understand and response to their requirement. have a good understanding with the product. So that is what we should be doing around it. Remember, this is a second generation balance scorecard and an example for you to understand how it works as far as strategy map is concerned. Now coming to the third generation strategy maps, if you want to go around it. The third generation use a destination statement. Remember, the destination is about 50 cities probably, or 500 million or $1 billion revenue or profitability. Now, this is the destination setting that comes around it, and you need to man the organizational structures and the information system, the data system, the communication. Talk in terms of sales and marketing and how it goes around it with your manufacturing and volumes of sales that needs to be done around, and you will have that third generation balance scorecard. So applying the third generation balance scorecard is what we are trying to develop: a destination statement, visions to be in a situation if the strategy is achieved, develop strategy maps, strategic objective, and the relationship as the case might be, establish the measures, the targets. It is important to recognize that the balance scorecard has absolutely no role in the formation of strategy. This is very important. The balance scorecard has no role in the formation of strategies. It only gives you direction and tells you about the health of the organization. It is up to you to rectify the health. So, however, balance scorecard can be integrated and developed based on a strategic planning process, including the Hoshin planning as such. Starting with the vision of Hoshin planning. Now, this is what we have been talking every now and then as what needs to be done. What happens out here? We are talking about tracking, managing, connecting your project across any teams with Hoshin processes. We are listening nothing but also know about policy deployment. It's a systematic process of tackling long-term strategic goals through day-to-day operations, through day-to-day strategic goals, built-in review process, training activities that suppose continuous improvement. Remember, ocean planning is all about a long-term issues. Balance scorecard is all about the destination statement. Establish an integrated one-year time. Develop a strategy map altogether. Deploy departments and identify resources. Develop balance scorecard. Execute the plans. Report the progresses. Change direction. And that is what integration is all about with balance scorecard and ocean planning. Ocean planning essentially is a systematic process for tackling long-term strategic goals through day-to-day operation, built-in review process, training activities that support continuous improvement. Remember, it is a policy deployment that comes around. That is the relationship that comes around it. So best practices, what and why? For balance scorecard implementation, what is involved the intended users of the balance scorecard in its design? Be very clear. Why? Because it is the only way to surely understand where what you are agreeing to do. The second is the balance scorecard should be able to understandable and transferable. The design must be communicated, driven downward. It must be known public, made public. What ensure the balance scorecard is compatible with the existing process working of the organization. Why? Because other management process and tool must be retained, and they will tell, because other management tools were in practices, were in work, and that was where the organization was working till now. You just suddenly cannot negate it. And in fact, other management tools do have their own merits around it. Ensure that the balance code is easily aligned and cascade through the organization. This helps the entire organization for a common purpose per se. Make efficient use of managers' time in balance scorecard. Management time is a scarce resource and one cannot take the luxury of wasting it and propounding it. With this, I come to an end of this presentation. Thank you for watching this video.